Hey everybody, welcome. Hopefully this should be quite an easy one and might be handy if you don't know about these things. This is about shortening a motorcycle chain. Now I want to make a really big point here. This is not to be done to an old chain to get more life out of it. Do not do that. It will very likely snap on you, it may get caught up in the rear wheel, cause the rear wheel to lock, you could crash and die. So don't do that. This is for, like in my example, this chain is 200 miles old, maybe 250. Now, if you look at the adjuster marks, and by the way, I don't really trust these for lining up your rear wheel, they're not that reliable, but as you can see, it's quite a way down already, and this chain's a bit loose and needs a bit of a tighten, which is going to put me back here somewhere already, and that's just a bit, it's a bit soon to be running out of adjustment. So what I need to do to this chain is take a link out of it. I think it's just a link too long. Now when you adjust your chain you should make sure the rear wheel's on the floor, but I do know that this is a bit loose when it is on the floor. So what I'm going to do to check if I can do this at all, I'm just going to undo these skateboard axle sliders, undo the wheel, turn the adjustments all the way down in, push the wheel forward and see how much chain we have. You can end up with the wrong size chain for a few reasons, being, you've ordered the wrong size, literally, you've ordered it too long, or maybe you ordered the stock length chain and got smaller sprockets. They send you the wrong one, there's a deal on one that's particularly long, but it's the same chain so you can chop it down. All of these reasons can be why you end up having to do this. I'm also doing this for other reasons than just the, getting more life out of the chain, because that's a new chain anyway. It's because if you shorten the wheelbase of the bike, it will actually turn better. And I've just recently put the correct size tyre on this bike for this rim anyway, because I had an oversized tyre before. But I very much like to try it with a shorter wheelbase, because that should improve the turning circle. And thus it should turn faster, easier, in theory. Okay, so we're about even on both sides, and I've got the axle loosened off, so now I should better just push this forward. And some stones fall out. Now the question is, are we going to have enough chain to take a link out? Because remember, you're not taking one link out, you have to take out basically two links, because to get back to a hole for your split pin to connect to. So there we go, we've got plenty. It's not too tight, and we've still got adjustment to go back far enough. That is plenty of slack. So I'm happy that when we shorten it, we'll be able to space it out just a little bit, and then we're going to have it at the good tension with the wheel all the way forward. It will give us a much shorter wheelbase. Probably have to be careful, it's probably going to be a little bit wheelie happy. Okay, so now we need to find the split link. There it is. Now this is, my knee. This is going to be a fun bit, because this plate was very difficult to get on. So now I'm going to have to get it off, cut the chain down, and then get it back on again. Now, some people like split links, some people like rivet links. Rivet links are technically the best ones. I've always been happy using split links. Do as you please. This is just how I do things, not necessarily how you should. Now, because that was so hard to press on, I'm going to actually use my chain tool to get it out. So remember, I'm not splitting the chain with this, I'm just using it to push out the split pin, because it is such a tight fit. And just walk it out step by step. There you go, don't go one side at a time, and remember you need to retain your rings, your sealing rings. X rings, O rings, depending what you have. Right. Oh, no, we're missing another one. There we go. Okay, so I'm pulling the chain taut around the sprockets, and as you can see, those fit in there fine. We'll just have to grind that one off and that one off, get this split, and then we can put the split pin back through here, remove that one link. As you can see, one link is actually two, if you count it as one link, two link, because you have the inner part and the outer part. But that's still loose enough to adjust back up. Perfect. Now I could try and chop this on the floor here and not pull the chain through, but I want to check my front sprocket's tight anyway, so we'll just take it off. Right, now to split this chain, I've seen some people using chain splitting tools where they just push that back through. And I've thought you could just do that, and I broke a chain splitter in the past doing it. And then I realised it's much easier to just grind the heads off. I'm not sure whether you're supposed to do that, whether much beefier chain splitters can deal with just pushing them straight through, but I find the angle grinder and the chain splitter to be a much more effective way of doing it. That's all you got to do, nice and simple. It's very hot now. Now we need to get the chain splitter. Just lift that out a little bit. Do a bit one side, you can see it's lifted a bit. Do the other side. And then that lifts off, and that brings us a couple of O-rings. You can always keep those as spares if you want them. They might be a bit cooked from the grinding process though, so be warned. There's the piece we've removed. And there it is, shortened by 1 link. If you need to do more because you bought a chain that's like several links too long, really do make sure that it is long enough and you don't, because if you take 1 link too many off, that's it, you're never going to get the chain on. And if you do manage to get it on, it will probably be too tight. So yeah, really do, as they say, measure twice, cut once. Now a common problem with DRs is that the front sprocket undoes itself. Now I hope I've done enough this time to make sure it hasn't, but as I need to put the chain round anyway, this gives me a perfect opportunity to check to see if it's worked. If it hasn't, oh God. It's solid as a rock. And do you know why? Basically, I upped the torque levels, which is something that was officially suggested by Suzuki at one point because of this issue, and they went pretty high with it. But then, I didn't go quite as high as they suggest, but I went much higher. I Loctited it with the blue Loctite, and then I have folded over every single side of that tab washer, and it's done the trick. So that's very good news. Okay, we'll pull that taut and bring that up. Uh-oh. Just kidding. Bring that up. And then stick the split pin through. And we've got our O-rings on this side. Like so. You have to get these O-rings over. And then your plate. And now you've got to get that plate squished back on there. And as I say, I used a mini vise last time and I broke it in half. Which is why I've been doing this off, but I can't leave it any longer. So, what are we going to try and do this with? What I'm doing here is clamping these with mole grips, letting it squidge down a bit, and then undoing them, doing them up a little bit tighter than before, and again, and that appears to have worked. As long as the clip goes back on properly. Which it has done, and as you can see there's a very slight amount of wiggle in that, which means that we got it all the way down and we've got it all the way in. And also my belief is you should have it this way round, because when the wheel's in motion, at no point is that coming back round to be caught. Because if you imagine, if it was the other way round, when this comes back round, if it's a bit of grass or something, it could ping that off. This way round, it's held on better. But yes, the best method is to have a rivet link. Right, and now we need to get it on the deck and readjust the chain. Okay, well now we're on the ground, you can see, very loose, which is good because it means we can bring the wheel back and not have it quite so rammed forward. And you will note, very small turns make a big difference on this. That looks about right to me. I'll see what it's like when I sit on it in a minute. But anyway, so now I've got this adjusted to this point. I just want to match that on the other side. Now you can kind of go on these marks, but I wouldn't. The method I use to check this is I measure from this face to this face, because it's the same on both sides. Get that to meet. Oh. Okay, so we know that's in line. I think that'll be about right once I'm sat on the bike. I'll find that in a minute. Give the wheel a bit of a slap to make sure it sits firm against the adjusters, and then do it up to the correct torque using your torque wrench. There we go. Sit on the bike. This is where you could do with a friend. Yeah, see, that's actually, I think that's a little too tight. I need to take a very slight bit off that. Yeah, that's more like it. And there we go, job done. The one thing that was holding me off doing this, because I just didn't want to get into it, was if that didn't want to go back together, the split link, and if that had loosened off, this would have been a much bigger job. But I am so glad. Went nice and easy. That should be very interesting to find out what it's like to ride, and I can't wait to do that. Unfortunately, the heavens have opened, so catch me in a future video, and I'll let you know how it is. But we now have a shorter wheelbase, a narrower wheel, a rebuilt bike. This bike's had a full rebuild if you want to see the series, called Restoration Z. Yeah, check it out. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then please do hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters who help make this channel possible. And I'm going to reiterate here, do not do this to an old chain. Do not do this to try and get extra life out of an old chain. It could kill you. Okay? Fair warned. Catch you next time.